Now that all the bridge pins are out, it's time to make a pattern. We're going to use a Mylar template to make the pattern. This particular bridge is very unusual because it's had a lot of work done. This is going to be a tricky pattern. In a lot of ways, we're going to have to sort of guess at where the holes are. Usually, it looks more like that, where we know exactly where the old holes were. This one, it is all so completely chewed up. This is possibly the worst one I've ever seen. I've done 100 bridges, and this is the worst because of that work. These will be no problem. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll say this real quick. Sometimes the wood is so chewed up in there that it's hard to tell exactly where the holes were, so you do end up kind of having to do some math and sort of divide it evenly and sort of make your calculations, or you can use kind of these string cuts as a clue as to where the old holes were. So yeah, I mean, it's not completely unprecedented, but having it this bad, that is. So I think actually what I'm going to do on this is, because putting the Mylar template on there, it's so bumpy, I mean, with all that old glue, that Mylar template's not going to fit very flush on there at all. So generally I don't sand this down, but in this case I think I need to. It's that bad. I'm going to sand it down as little as I have to. I just focus in that area, just basically sand the glue off, and hopefully that'll reveal where those holes used to be a little bit more than it is revealed now. Now the reason that we don't want to sand it down ideally is because those pins are at an angle. So you can imagine if your surface is right there, the further you sand it down, that hole is going to move. It's going to move over to the right with the angle. If it were straight up and down, it wouldn't matter how far down you sand it, because it's straight up and down, and that hole's going to be in the same place. So, and the thickness of the bridge, it doesn't matter, because we're gonna reset the down bearing later anyway, so that we're not worried about that. That actually revealed quite a bit. That's going to make that much easier right there. This, I'm not so sure about. I think that's about as good as we're going to get. We want to be very careful in making this Mylar template, because if we're off, it'll that's where the strings go, and we need side bearing on those strings. And I think you know what I'm talking about when I say side bearing, but if you look at these, the way that string definitely bends around the pin, the bridge pin there, and then it bends again. So if that's not put in the right place, if this pin, for example, were even a fraction of an inch to the right, to the treble side, you can kind of visualize it. That string would just be straight, which is bad. That causes buzzing. First thing I'll do, I'll just make a rough outline to, well, just make some there to cut it out. So I'm not dealing with this whole giant roll of Mylar. And we'll start connect these dots, the corners, with the ruler here. These are just the corners, of course, on the side of the bridge. This is a good part to get pretty exact so that there's no question later on down the road when we're putting this template back on the new bridge cap. There's no question side to side about where that fits. Which, as you saw on that piano, it needs to be pretty exact, especially as far as your left-right positioning goes. If your positioning left-right is off just a little bit and you're off to the right towards the treble side, then you'll have your bridge pins, the speaking side bridge pins will be straight and not have that bend around the bridge that you need. Okay, let's see how we did. All right, that looks good. Continuing on, we've got another. Can you see that with the camera? Mm-hmm. So we've got this edge here. I'm going to put a dot right there. That's for that edge. Let's go ahead and cut that in a minute. Start taping it on just temporarily because I'm going to take the tape off in a bit to make the cut. Of the sides. Now that we've got that on, it's not going anywhere. Now it's a good idea to tape this in a few more places, because as we make these holes, It'll shift around a little bit. All right, now our Mylar template is ready. Now you don't generally need to draw this line, but I think because these holes are so bad, so confusing, at least through there, I think it'd be a good idea to draw a line. All right, so now the question is this area. I think I can really draw a few of these lines just so that it's very obvious. Those are the lines, of course, of the old strings. Okay, so based on those lines, we've got one here. I'm going to put the brand and serial number 277547. Okay, that should do it. Let's take it off and have a look. Now on easier ones, you can just poke holes with an awl, and that works quite well too. This one was a little bit more convoluted, and it is quite common, by the way, that the old holes will be uneven in their spacing and they'll also kind of be a wavy line along there. So something that I do like to do is to straighten out that line, just because I can. It's the left-right that's the crucial. You know, whether you're slightly this way or that way doesn't matter quite so much. All right. There it is.